My name is Tessie Naranjo.
I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to call my story Time, Place, Change at Santa Clara Pueblo. But before I start my PowerPoint, I want to say a few words, and I want to start by saying that everybody has a home. You have a place where your home is. What would you say about the place you call home? What would I say about my home? I'm going to use PowerPoint using old and new photographs to tell you my story about my home, my place. In my story, I will use some words from my language. I speak English. I also speak Tewa. The first slide, and we'll get started with the first slide. The first slide is a place called Buje, and this is where we used to live until about 500 years ago. It's up in the mountains. Next slide. This is on top of Buje. The remains of life lived 500 years ago are still there. If you say it fast, Buje, it means leather. But if you pronounce it Buje, it means rabbits gathering. When we left this place 500 years ago, we moved to a place 10 miles away near the Rio Grande River. By moving to this place near the Rio Grande River, we could irrigate our crops instead of depending on rain to water our crops. When we moved near the river, we lived near this mesa. Next slide. And this mesa is called Black Mesa, a really important landmark for us. It sits to the south of our village, and it's about probably 4 miles south of where our village sits. When I think of this, it's called Hunjo in Tewa. And when I think of Hunjo, I think of my mother who taught me a song long ago about Black Mesa or Hunjo. I'll not sing it to you, but give you the words in Tewa, and here it goes. Hunjo kwaje na pobisa, Hunjo kwaje na pobisa, tse okit agi wa na pobisa, impovi, domo rankun. Kani nanandang kundi sitere talks about how far away it is, and we cry when we can't get near to Tunjo. So it's close to the highway, and so every time I pass Tunjo, I remember my mother. And guess what? I want to sing this song every time I see this place called Hunjo. I want to go to the next slide and show you my home. Oh, but before I go to the next slide and show you my home, I want to give you a different take on Hunjo, because really I want to show you the Rio Grande River. A beautiful, beautiful photo of both Hunjo and the Rio Grande River. And now you can see why we wanted to move from up there at Buje down here, because then we could, we're close to the river to irrigate our crops. Next slide. This is children from the early 1920s. A very important photo for me because it shows what was happening in the early 1900s, probably about 1920. With little kids only knowing how to speak Tewa. You see their braids, and they're starting to learn how to talk English. Next slide. Now we get to my village, and this is an old photograph taken about 100 years ago, and I can tell you that to the left of this photo is the Rio Grande River, and further down south is Tunjo, Black Mesa. And I'll take walks easily, quite commonly, and walk down to the Rio Grande River because it's a short distance away. It's a lovely walk. Next slide. An important lady for me. This is my great-grandmother in Tewa. We've always called her, or known her by the Tewa name of Jia Hung. Jia is mother, Hung is corn, Jia Hung. I have many brothers and sisters, and all of us as children would walk to her place almost every day. She only knew how to speak Tewa, and so we learned Tewa. But then everybody in the village taught Tewa when I was a youngster, and so we learned to speak Tewa. That was our first language. Next slide. Another important photograph. Important because it's my mother that can be seen hanging on to Jia Hung. My mother was 3 years old when her mother died, and so Jia Hung took on both my mother at 3 years old and her brother, Uncle Manuel, at not even able to walk yet, and she raised them until they were grown. Next slide. I need to show you this photo because it talks about my father. The middle picture is a man that we always have known as, I didn't know him because this is an old picture, but he was the man who raised my father, and his name is Ta Bobi. Ta is father in Tewa, and Bobi is flower. So his name was Ta Bobi, and that's how we still remember him by. My father's parents died when he was about 6 years old, and so then Ta Bobi came and raised my father. I think I will go to the next slide and show you a picture, and it's an older picture too, and it's a picture of a girl carrying a child on her back. My mother, when I was a kid, also placed my younger brother and sisters on my back while she cooked and she cleaned or did other things. Children learn how to help early in their years. Next slide. Another picture of a boy with his younger sister. And this is a picture that reminds me about even as a youngster, this young boy was feeling responsible from someone younger than himself. Or even he's growing up to learn that to take care of others who need help. Again, we'll go to the next slide. This is a more up-to-date present picture a few years ago, and it's a picture of a granddaughter taking care of her grandmother. Her grandmother with an illness where she couldn't use her hands to put her own shoes on, and the granddaughter's little boy is looking on, but this little boy is learning kindness as he's part of this activity where his mother is putting on her grandmother's shoes. Next slide. A long time ago, what did children see when they're in and around, when they were living in and around the village? In this photo, they would have seen foot running. This is not a picture of racing. It is about running, and it's about running to help give energy to the sun for winter to come. Foot running is no longer done in my village. We stopped foot running about 50 years ago. The village that still does foot running is at a place about 45 miles away from where I live here at Santa Clara. In fact, I went to see them run this past September the 30th, and they were running, young and old, running to help the sun bring energy for winter to come. Next slide. Another scene where this is what children would have seen. They would have seen their grandpa and their grandmother husking corn. Families helped each other for work to get done. Next slide. Another picture of corn husking and a really, really nice picture of little kids being around corn husking. They're learning how to husk corn, and in fact, maybe perhaps they're even helping to husk the corn. Children learned how to help in all sorts of ways a long time past, including helping with corn husking. Next slide. A picture of a lady going down to the creek, not too far away from our village. And this was when there was no running water in our homes. Running water came inside into our homes about 50 years ago. As a young mother, as a young girl, my mother would go after water at the creek. She said one time she fell and broke her water jar. Jia Hong, her grandmother, made her sit down to make another water jar. My mother would laugh every time she told this story. Next slide. The children would have seen dancing, and we danced throughout the seasons: fall, winter, spring, and summer. We dances such as the geese, the deer, and the corn. This particular photo is about the geese dance. Geese flies, they flew over the village, and they still fly over our village in fall and the spring. We dance to honor them. As they fly over our heads, we stop to watch them make V formations over and over again. I become happy when I see them. When we dance the geese dance, the dancers also make the V formations, which is beautiful to see. Next slide. The children would see the deer dance, but more than that, they would also participate as dancers. Can you see the deer, the young deer dancers in the background? They're dancing just like the older adults. It's a winter dance, and even if it is a cold winter day, they dance all day long. They learn the deer dance song, and they learn how to know when to turn, when to step up, or when to stop. The next slide. This is the corn dance. Corn, little children or youngsters, what these children are 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years old. This song, the corn dance, is different from the deer dance. But once more, these children have to learn to listen to the song in order to know when to turn, when to step up, or when to stop. This is going to be my last picture. And I'm on the left side, and this was a number of years ago. And in the middle is my sister, and then the little baby is her grandbaby. I'm showing this slide because throughout my PowerPoint story, I've talked about how life was and still is lived in my village. From the photos that I've shown you, you can see how life moves and how it passes by. When I think about years passing by, I remember my sister who is in the middle of the photo. She said something very wise. She said to me more than once, she said, Just like the clouds moving and passing by, we humans also experience life moving and passing by. I like what my sister said. I love looking upwards to see the shape of the clouds and whether they move fast, they seem still, and they clump together, showing that rain is going to come soon. I'm just about to end my story now, and I hope you remember to look up to watch the clouds. The old tale people would watch the clouds because clouds have their own story to tell, just like we have our own story to tell. The baby in this photo is now 19 years old. She, like the clouds, will see our village moving from one year to the next. She's 19 years old. What will she experience when she is 30 years old, 40 years old, or even 50 years old? I was born at Santa Clara. I still live at Santa Clara. How about you all? What will you all experience as years pass for you? What will you say about your move to a few places if you move from one place to the next? What will you say about the places you call home when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50? Now, I really will end my story. My story has been about time, place, space at Santa Clara Pueblo. Thank you for listening.